The Atacama Desert is the driest region on Earth, and the creatures that live there are pushed to the absolute extreme. Lurking somewhere in the vast expanse of Chilean wilderness is the spider with the most dangerous bite on Earth. But in order to find it, we're going to need to get to the bottom of what makes it so dangerous in the first place. It turns out that the story of the six-eyed sand spider is intertwined with the stories of many other bizarre life forms that make up the secret world of the Atacama Desert. My name is Spencer Hoffman, and I'm a biologist on a mission to discover the stories of the world's most extreme wildlife. I've been working with deadly spiders for years, and one arachnid has forever been on my radar: the six-eyed sand spider. Native to coastal South America and South Africa, these spiders have one of the most destructive venoms in the entire world. But since they almost never come across people, no one has ever filmed one in the wild. I'm headed to northern Chile to track down this terrifying spider and find out why its venom is so insanely deadly. These spiders are rugged survivors, but why are they armed with biological overkill? The secret lies in why the Atacama is the driest desert on Earth, and to show you that, our story actually begins in the Pacific Ocean.
This odd-feeling creature. This is the first ever sea star I've ever held in my bare hand. It's such an odd feeling. This is the multi-radiate sea star, and here in South America, this is the apex predator of the tide pools. These things look like they'd be sedentary, right? It looks like a piece of plant or something. They actually understand most of their world through sensory and chemical information, and I can actually feel it starting to sense and feel me. That is such a peculiar feeling. The way these animals move, you can actually see it kind of slithering a little bit there, is by using these tiny little feet that line all of its tons of crazy tentacle-like arms. Look at this thing move. It's like these weird little suckers reaching out, trying to find purchase with my hand here. And that is just one of the most strange sensations I've ever had. It's crazy too, as this animal moves around, it actually shifts. So right when I first picked it up, it was rigid and spiky, but it's almost getting soft now. But they're able to do this kind of like softening themselves to get underneath rocks and things. They're hunting for clams, these hard-shelled mollusks. What they can do is they'll actually use those same tube feet to wrap, curl all the way around it, and then they can actually make themselves rigid again and use that rigid structure to slowly pull the clam apart, which they can then eat with this unusual organ right here. That in the middle, you kind of see deep in there, is actually its mouth. These guys are, again, one of the strangest life forms probably in the entire world, short of like tardigrades or something.
These tide pools are crawling with life. Plenty of stuff for these sun stars to eat. It's actually insane. Just mere meters inland, and the biodiversity drops off. But if you looked at the ocean just off the coast of the Atacama Desert, you'd find a paradise. This is all due to a phenomenon called the Humboldt Current. This cold water current dumps tons of nutrients into the coastal waters of Chile, but the cold air it brings pushes away the atmospheric moisture that causes precipitation. So while the sea creatures are eating good, the land is parched. Like a drier, crispier Arizona, life here has to get creative in order to survive the harsh conditions. But if you know where to look, there are some pretty interesting critters that call this place home. This is the Chilean beauty tarantula, and this is a beautiful female. Look at that thing move. I love the way tarantulas walk. This is the biggest spider we could possibly find out here, except for maybe a Chilean rosehair, and they are one of the most iconic desert spiders of the Americas. These terrestrial tarantulas are ground-dwelling, living underneath rocks, underneath cover, usually in burrows. But it's crazy to me how, even though it's like much cooler out today, she has quite the burst of speed. She's not happy to be exposed. These tarantulas, see, they do have eyes, right? But sight is not actually how they interact with their world. Their eyes really only showing them light and dark. You know, when it's light outside, she feels exposed, she feels like she wants to get back under cover. And when it's dark, she feels safe. The way these spiders are actually understanding their world is kind of one of the most obvious features of the tarantula. I always say the appearances we see of the animals we find in nature are actually clues to their biology. One of the most obvious things about most of the desert tarantulas here is that they are just covered in hairs are actually the way they understand the world. One of the reasons they make popular pets is because they're kind of soft and furry and slow moving, and for the most part, they're a fairly inoffensive group of spiders, at least these terrestrial New World tarantulas. But that hair serves a whole lot of different functions. For the most part, they're using it to actually sense their environment. You're probably like, Spencer, what the heck, hairs can't feel? You might say that, but actually have your friend kind of brush the back of your neck with like a little piece of like grass or something, but not touching your actual neck, touching your hairs. You can actually feel it. As those hairs kind of bend at our skin, we can detect very, very fine touches with our hair. The tarantulas take it to a whole new level though. Their hairs are actually called setae, and they're a very special structure that basically extend underneath their exoskeleton and function as an extension of this arthropod's nervous system. And all these little hairs allow her to sense vibrations. It's how she hears. So me talking right now, she doesn't have ears like you or I do. The vibrations in the air are brushing those hairs, and she can tell there's noise coming from this direction. She can also use her hairs to feel. So she can feel that I'm brushing her there. They have specialized hairs that can sense the chemicals in their environment, and they use that to actually hunt their prey. This is one of the largest arthropods we could possibly find in this environment. Chile has deserts just like Arizona, just like Mexico. But they're not getting the giant centipedes that are dominating the kind of subterranean matrix. The tarantulas are the kings of the arthropod world here. Pretty much mammals are the only thing these spiders have to fear. And as long as they stay in their subterranean lifestyles, they really have nothing to worry about. And tarantulas are only the beginning of the creepy creatures that call this place home. As we hunt for the deadly sand spider, we need to keep in mind that they're not the only predators patrolling this desert landscape. Other arachnids are creeping in the shadows as well, each armed You ever have issues with noise while you're trying to focus on work or enjoy your favorite YouTube videos?
My backyard is wild, and not just because of the crazy wildlife that I film. Our dogs and chickens can be loud. And when I'm trying to edit a video or watch Star Wars, I want the best audio I can get at an affordable price, which is why I'm so thrilled that Raycon is the sponsor of today's video.
Raycon offers sleek earbuds with active noise isolation, allowing you to hear the things you want to hear in top-notch quality and drown out the things you don't.
Whether I want to focus on an edit or bring music on the go, my Raycon everyday earbuds charge in just 10 minutes and are ready to spring into action with me.
One of the coolest things these earbuds can do is let me take calls in the field with awareness mode. I can plan future adventures while keeping an ear on the task at hand.
For robust and affordable audio that'll keep up with your adventures, and to support a brand that helps make this channel possible, go to buyraycon.com/mywildbackyard to get 20% off the best-selling everyday earbuds. Brought to you by Raycon.
Now, where was I? Right. Other arachnids are creeping in the shadows as well, each armed with their own arsenals of insane adaptations. And this is because they're far from the top dogs of this desert landscape. Birds of prey, prowling mammals, and dozens of lizards are all hungry and waiting for a smaller animal to slip up and become lunch. The harsh climate of this region is actually really tough on biodiversity. So while I'm looking for an extremely deadly spider, there aren't really venomous snakes to worry about down here. In fact, snakes are so rare in the Atacama that you pretty much don't expect to see them at all until they turn up on the front porch of your lodge in between searching sessions.
Have a look at this snake right here. This gorgeous striped patterning, that is the iconic Chilean racer. Actually the biggest snake we could have found here. And I'm surprised because they're actually quite rare. So having one turn up at the lodge is a little bit of a surprise. This is a snake we didn't think we were going to see on this trip, but it's very, very special. Not only is it the largest snake here in Chile, it's the largest terrestrial reptile. And they've got quite the interesting secret. Kind of see it a little bit there. His face got a little bit of puffy cheeks almost. This snake has venom glands. I am holding a venomous snake and the only venomous snake here in Chile. Now, fortunately, For me, it's not going to be a very serious bite. It would hurt quite a bit, and it might put me out for a few hours, but it's not a life-threatening injury if you're bitten by this snake. And actually, it'd be pretty hard to be envenomated by this snake because they're rear-fanged. Unlike many of the venomous snakes in the world, this is a colubrid. This is the same as like the rat snakes I get back home, the racer snake I get back home. Only difference is it does use venom to help subdue its prey. And that venom is delivered by these fangs in the back of its mouth. Most venomous colubrids are actually rear-fanged, so oftentimes you don't even think of them as venomous. Hognose snakes, even some of the vine snakes and stuff, are venomous colubrids, sometimes with some pretty strong venom. But because they have to really open their mouth and really chew to inject it, people are almost never envenomated. The venom of this snake is actually particularly gnarly, not because it's lethal to people, but it is a nice cocktail of interesting compounds. It's primarily myotoxic, which attacks the muscle tissues. Basically, a bite from this, you're going to have a ton of pain, a ton of localized tissue damage, and lots of swelling. It's not a fun bite to take, but as you can see right here, it's not inclined to bite. This is a wild-caught animal. They are supposed to be very fast, but they're also quite inoffensive. And the reason being is this is an arid environment. In those deserts, resources are scarce. They're hard to come by. That venom is not really to be used on things that aren't food. This guy wants to be using it on lizards, on rodents, on small birds. A big animal like me, I'm not food for him. If he wastes that venom on me, he might not be able to acquire a meal later today, and that could be the difference between life and death.
That's the trick of the Atacama. You don't know when your next meal will be, and that's why you need to make your kills count. And you need to not get eaten yourself in the process. Most of the smaller invertebrates have taken to shelter during the day. Those same rocks I'm flipping for tarantulas could potentially hide a deadly sand spider. But these assassins are more active when night falls, often hunting at the edge of rocks where we can uncover their hiding places.
Have a look at this right here. My first Sicarius. Now, it's a tiny one, but that's actually a good thing because what we're looking for is huge and super dangerous. But in order to study the behavior of these spiders, working with a small one first is actually not a terrible idea. So I'm gonna take it out. Oh, it's moving. It's fast, wow. Let's see if he'll stay in my hand. What do you think? Something like this maybe? So this is my first time ever handling any of the Sicarius. But I think this should be okay. This is a small species, Sicarius fumosus. I don't even know if it has a common name. They look almost like a rock. I'm pretty sure they actually can't penetrate human skin, even smaller than a brown recluse. But it's actually important because, ooh, don't go in there, please. It's actually important because these guys are a close cousin of brown recluse spiders. You can see they get their name, the six-eyed sand spider. It's right there in the front. They have 6 eyes. And you can actually kind of see on the cephalothorax there, almost that kind of ridge, that violin shape, like the recluse spiders have. It's almost even more pronounced on these guys than the recluses. And like the recluse spiders, they have a really potent venom. Now, this particular one is not all that dangerous to people as far as we know. But the big one, the American six-eyed sand spider, that one is probably the most dangerous spider to ever be bitten by. Now this right here is actually giving me some good indication of how they'll behave. Since they're so related, I can pretty much guess that if this one behaves like this, the larger ones will probably also behave like this. You can see, now that it's kind of found a spot where it's comfortable, it's just gonna sit there and do nothing. They're ambush hunters. It's about what I would expect from their behavior. They're spending most of their time sitting camouflaged in the sand, in this guy's case in the gravel, waiting for little insects, even other spiders to walk by. In studying these guys, we've learned they've actually got a pretty varied diet and are even cannibalistic at times. They're typically living under rocks, and the smaller ones are living under smaller rocks, like we found it. We haven't seen a whole lot of really big rocks, and actually the habitat here feels wrong for the big ones. That gravelly appearance looks more like what I would expect in this gravelly soil. I think for the giant ones, we actually need a finer sand type. So we're gonna actually probably let this guy go and get back out into the night and see if we can find some better habitat and maybe turn up a monster six-eyed sand spider.
It's insane to me how arid environments drive wildlife to develop the most potent venoms. We see it across the world. In the Sonoran Desert, the tiger and Mojave rattlesnakes have the most potent reptile venoms in North America, and the Maricopa harvester ant lays claim to the most toxic insect venom on Earth. On the other side of the planet, the desolate moon plains of the Australian outback are home to the taipan, the most venomous snake in the entire world. And here in the Atacama, the world's driest desert, we see yet another animal with venom pushed to the extreme, the six-eyed sand spider. And while this strange-looking spider is definitely one of the highly venomous Sicarius, the big one we're after is quite elusive. This story isn't over yet. I'm not going to rest until I track down one of these deadly arachnids. Their venom is unique, not just among spiders, but in the entire animal kingdom. To find out why, we need to study one of their close cousins, the Chilean recluse spider. If you want to unlock the secrets of their extremely dangerous venom, check out this video right here. Hope to see you there, but until next time, don't forget to get outside and find your own adventure.